She had never imagined herself back in her hometown, taking over the clinic that everyone in town had been in at some moment in their lives. "Well?" her older brother said from behind her. "What do you think?" Grant wrapped his arm around her shoulders and smiled down at her. She smiled up at him, wanting to squeal with joy. "Thanks for buying me breakfast." She nodded to the coffee in her hand. He had taken her to Mama's, the best and only diner in town. It had just been remodeled and was busier than ever. Melissa was staying with Grant, his wife Alex, and their daughter Laura, out at their new ranch just outside of town, at least until she could find a place of her own. There were a few possibilities, but she had yet to make up her mind about which one to move into. It had been almost 2 weeks since she had returned to town and had bumped into Dr. Connor, who had quickly informed her that he was looking to hire a new head nurse for the clinic. Bonnie, the head nurse who had worked at the clinic for as long as anyone could remember, had retired earlier that year. Dr. Connor had told her that he was desperate to hire someone who could put things in order again around the clinic. He was around 10 years older than Melissa and had been working at the clinic since moving into town almost 6 years ago. Melissa had noted that he wasn't a bad-looking man. He was tall, had jet black hair and dark eyes, something she had always found very attractive in a man. She had worked with plenty of doctors in Houston where she had gone to school and done her internship, but she had immediately wondered about working with Dr. Connor since it was a small town and people talked. She had run into him at the grocery store, and he had almost begged her to at least stop by and look into the clinic. She had put it off for a while, but after applying for a few jobs in the city, she had decided that sticking around her hometown for a while couldn't hurt. When she had stopped by, all the other employees had been so accepting and kind, and when Dr. Connor had presented her with an offer, she had jumped at it. Now, as she looked around the room, she couldn't help but smile. "Anytime, little sis." He leaned down and placed a kiss on her cheek. "Anytime. Well, I better get back to the house. I bet my girls are up already." She smiled, remembering how cute her niece was. Her soft blonde hair, chubby baby cheeks, and eyes matched Grant's perfectly. "Go be a husband and daddy." She reached up and kissed his cheek. He had changed so much in the past few years that she still had a hard time believing he was the same man. Gone were the chubby cheeks, the thick glasses, and the insecurity. Now, her brother looked more like a movie star than the awkward boy she had been raised looking up to, which only made her look up to him even more. By the time she had flipped on all the lights in the clinic, several of the staff had arrived and were preparing for the day. Since Fairplay was a small town, she already knew everyone who worked there. When the doctor walked in at 8:15, the waiting room and the 3 small examining rooms were already full. Apparently, it was early flu season, and most of the kids in grade school had passed it to one another. By the end of her first day, she was exhausted, and yet strangely full of energy. She knew there was a lot she could improve on at the small clinic, and hoped that everyone else would be as excited as she was to make things flow more efficiently. During her lunch, she had written up a small list of items she would fix first. After the doors were closed and locked for the day, she knocked on Dr. Connor's office door. "Come in." She took a deep breath and opened the door. "Oh, Melissa," he said, sitting down a folder. He waved her in and motioned to the chair. "So, how was your first day?" "Great," she smiled, feeling a little nervous. "I can't thank you enough for helping us out. So, what do you think?" He folded his arms on the desk and waited. She took a deep breath. "I have a few suggestions." She looked down at the paper in her hands. "Great." He held out his hand for the paper. She waited as he read through her list, her fingers folded in her lap and her eyes focused on his face, waiting for any emotions. "These could all work out very well." He smiled and looked up at her. "Some of them might take some time for us to adjust to, but I think we can all make an effort. When would you like to start on these?" Her eyebrows shot up. There was no arguing, no complaining, no power pushing. She wasn't used to it. At the hospital she had interned at in Houston, she had been laughed at when she had made a small suggestion and had been told to just follow the rules that someone much smarter than her had come up with years and years ago. "I can come in early tomorrow and start on the organizational parts. I can write up the changes to help the other employees." "Wonderful." He stood and handed the paper back to her. "I knew you were going to be good for us." She smiled and took the paper from him. For the first time since entering the medical field, she felt like someone had listened to her opinions.